There was a time when we were one unified point of consciousness, a singularity that in fractions of a second exploded in a big bang. Since then, life has been evolving exponentially, accelerating. Roughly 2 million years ago, we started using tools and technologies to extend our abilities. As life continues to evolve exponentially, the Two Paths podcast explores the opportunities of modern day tools and technologies as part of our greater becoming. Welcome. Two Paths podcast is a production of I Am Connected, a digital platform dedicated to the evolution of consciousness. Check us out at iamconnected.com. Today's guest is Brian Gilan from the Tech for Dreaming community. Brian started the Tech for Dreaming community as a focus for applying technology to making lucid dreaming more accessible. During the day, he works on the product team for Oura and makes Oura Ring, but by night, he's an avid lucid dreamer that is continually exploring lucid dreams and ways to make them more accessible to everyone. Brian's background is in chemical engineering and biomedical engineering and business, and he split his career between biotech, medtech, and wearable technology. He lives in San Francisco with his wife and his 2-year-old son, and he's particularly excited to help people develop mind and consciousness altering technologies like substances and devices that promote well-being, intelligence, and or a connection to the paranormal. Brian and I explore everything from Oura as a market-leading piece of technology for measuring and optimizing sleep to dropping deep into the lucid dreaming space. What is it? How do you do it? Why would you want to do it? What does the dreamscape show us about our waking reality? And even, is it this waking state a dream? I really enjoyed our conversation with Brian, and I hope you do as much as I did. Please enjoy this uninterrupted conversation with Brian Gilan and myself. Hey, Brian.
Hey.
So we connected through the transformative technology community. Through your role at Oura. I was volunteering as part of Transformative Technology Global in putting together, working with people to write content articles, and you at the time had put together a series of articles on lucid dreaming that we published and related back to the technologies at the time. And I've since become a huge fan of Oura. You know, we use it as a key piece of wearable kit as part of I Am Connected. I think Oura is just a great piece of technology. So I'd love if we could just start by briefly talking about the work maybe that you do at Oura, and also that the work that you're doing to build out a Tech for Dreaming, which is your community focused around technology in the lucid dreaming space.
Yeah. That sounds good, Troy. And thanks for having me today. So yeah, I'm over at Oura. So we make the Oura Ring. So it's a wearable ring that has a whole lot of sensors packed in. It tracks sleep, activity, heart rate variability, temperature, a whole bunch of, different things. I've been with them for a while. So I was one of the first US hires, first product manager over at Oura when they started the product org in 2019. Company started back 2013 or so, primarily based in Finland, but we started ramping up the US team in 2019. It's been quite the ride since being there. Been able to be part of a lot of the growth, and definitely an exciting future too. So that's kind of my day job, and I work in the product team there still. So I've kind of bounced around a few different product management roles there. Now I'm more on the product partnership side. So we own the Oura API, the means by which partners can pull data into their experiences and drive a lot of the product partnerships. That's my day job. And as you mentioned, currently organizing the community called Tech for Dreaming. So it's a community that is focused on using technology to make lucid dreaming more accessible to more people. And that kind of evolved, during the pandemic. I used to lead the San Francisco Bay Area more general lucid dreaming group. It was called Bay Area Lucid Dreaming. That was in person. We'd meet up down in the Lower Haight neighborhood of San Francisco, a place called Cafe International. But then pandemic hit, decided to move those events online, open up an opportunity to get more of kind of a global focus, get more people involved in joining the events, and then kind of narrowing the focus of that group to be that intersection of technology and lucid dreaming, and how could we make lucid dreaming more accessible with technology. So yeah, happy to go further into Oura or into tech for dreaming, like either path here.
Yeah, cool, man. That's great. Yeah, so maybe just dropping in on Oura for a moment, because it is such a great piece of kit. And like I said, we use it as part of our programs for I Am Connected. It monitors sleep recovery, which is really important. Like, we really focused around mental health to some extent. I think we're all got healing to be done, and there's such a, like, what we see is so much dysfunction shows up in our sleep. We can be doing our best day to day, and but if we're not sleeping right, it just really compounds how we show up day to day. And so by measuring sleep, and one of the things that it does for us is, as a wearable technology, it helps to create an effective feedback loop. And so it's not then, I know with a lot of wearables, people have them and they'll look at the data and there's no intervention, there's no change. And so by having the support to actually analyze your sleep and look at your sleep and then provide, work together to provide interventions that you can try. We work towards optimizing sleep, then optimizing recovery, performance the next day. You've got your activity tracker. You guys have been just adding features. You raised 100 mil last year, was it? Yeah,
that's right. So yeah, good timing for that before the external markets started to fall apart a bit. So we're in a good position here.
And is there anything that you can sort of share, anything new and exciting coming up with Oura that we should be on the lookout for?
Yeah, the main thing that's been announced was that the new sleep stage algorithm. So that was part of the part of the original announcement. So that's still progressing, and that's going to just be a step change and positive accuracy upgrade for the Oura Ring. Like, we're already pretty accurate in a whole wide variety of metrics, and that helps us be this kind of credible validator of different different solutions or different actions that you take to, as you said, get that feedback loop so you can try different things, different experiments on yourself and see, like, how did that impact my deep sleep? How did that impact my ability to fall asleep faster? How did it impact my sleep efficiency? So we kind of serve as that reference point for people to try things and then see, like, okay, what did that actually do? There's this quote from one of the original founders of Oura, Petteri. He would, I'm mispronouncing that because when you do two consonants in Finnish, there's like a up and down kind of sound. So it's Petteri. I'm butchering that, but I had to kind of weave in some of that. You'll hear a lot of, great pronunciations around Oura on many different words. But yeah, Petteri would say, make the invisible visible. So we have this, we're unconscious, every night during the night. And we don't really know what happens in our body, but devices like the Oura Ring can help make that invisible visible for people.
And the next level of that, which is the other space that you're working on, is the dream space. And I just want to say, I actually haven't talked in the last week, but I had a lucid dream the other night. Like, they're becoming more frequent for me, and it's just the most amazing experience. Like, when you actually realize that you're dreaming. I was in my house, and then there was too many rooms in the house. I'm like, hey, we ain't got this many rooms. It's like, hey, I'm dreaming, and it was enough for me to become lucid and then start exploring the dreamscape and the dream characters. I'd love to know more about, like, your journey with lucid dreaming, because it's like it's so, like, a lot of people don't even recall their dreams, and there's so much happens in our dreamscape. And like, when we look at consciousness, like, what happens, like, in our dream and our sleep cycle, and then we've got sleep cycle and a wake cycle. And so what we often don't pay much attention to our sleep cycle. Tell me about dreams. What's it meant for you on lucid dreamings?
My dream life really exploded in 2014. So that was a combination of a few things happening for me. I used to have sleep apnea, pretty severe sleep apnea. I actually got it diagnosed in 2014, and I was, I would stop breathing on average 37 times per hour. So that definitely puts it in the severe category. I got treated for sleep apnea with the CPAP machine. So I wore that for a year. Eventually I was able to get that fixed with surgery. But right around the time I got my sleep apnea treated, I also started meditating for the first time. So the combination of those two things led to this tidal wave of first very vivid dreams, and then starting to have lucid dreams. And like some of them pretty profound. Like some of them are just mind blowing. Like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened. And like I still get tingles feeling about some of those, thinking back to some of those earlier lucid dreams. And that led me to just read more about it and understand the techniques better to increase the frequency of lucid dreams, and how do you stabilize a lucid dream once you're in a lucid dream. So I went and read a variety of books, implemented some of those techniques. I would have even more frequent lucid dreams, deeper lucid dreams, and that would only motivate me to read more about it. So I kind of went in this like iterative feedback loop of just kind of going down the rabbit hole, if you will, with lucid dreaming. Really starting with getting sleep apnea fixed and meditating for the first time. But yeah, just kind of snowballed from there.
So we haven't really been taught to pay much attention to our dreams, let alone lucid dreaming. Like, what's there? Like, is it worth looking at from your point of view? Like, tell us like some of the things that would make us want to go more into that dreamscape.
Yeah, for sure. It's like one of those things where I didn't know I wanted to do it until I started doing it. And then after having some of these lucid dreaming experiences, I was like, I can't believe people are not freaking out about this. And I think it's because it's difficult to get into the lucid dream state, right? It's, but yeah, it's like even words are kind of difficult to, put around it. But there is some experiences where, it would feel more real than this reality that we're in right now. That on this call together, you can feel the breeze against your face. The tactile sensations are all there. You can taste and you can smell. You can interact with these dream figures that seem like they're as intelligent, if not more intelligent, than me, which I don't know how high of a bar that is, but I would have conversations, and like these dream figures would tell me things like, I don't think I ever knew that before. There's always space for like, maybe I read about something 10 years ago and kind of suppressed it into my subconscious and it resurfaces in a dream. But I swear there's like some things that like, I don't think I had that information until a dream figure, told me that. And then I subsequently look it up online after I wake up. So I've had a few instances like that are super eye-opening, that at least like make me open-minded to the possibility of lucid dreams and dreams being able to tap into kind of a non-local intelligence or consciousness, which if you were to, ask my more engineering-minded self a decade ago, he would have thought you're crazy if you were to bring up that kind of stuff. But I can't refute my personal experience with some of those lucid dreams. So I think the potential is huge. I think it's underappreciated at this point, just due to kind of lack of people that are having this kind of experiences yet. And that's where I think adding these new techniques and applying technology to make it more accessible will really kind of open up the space more and more.
Yeah, I know. Like, so you've been supporting me to get more active with lucid dreaming and sharing different techniques. And I know the state checks throughout the day. So where I'd one of my favorites is like jumping up and then falling down, because obviously when you're flying in a dream, and I'm thinking we probably all had those flying dreams or those dreams where we take off and we just don't seem to come down. It's something that I have sporadically. And so like doing those state checks during the day where I jump up and then fall down and then go, am I dreaming? Am I awake? Oh, I'm awake. And I just like have the realization when, because we get so caught in the waking state sometimes in the internal narrative, in the story, in our conditioning, that like when I do these state checks in the waking state, like am I dreaming or am I awake, that it's like, well, is this a dream? Like, is this waking state a dream? And like, who's to say that this is more real than that state? Because like you said, when you're in that dreamscape and you're lucid, it feels as real as like anything else. I was wondering, like, yeah, because we could sort of jump into the whole, like, is this a simulation conversation? Like, and that's probably going to come at some point in this conversation. But what's your take on it? Like doing the state checks for me, it's just like really, it makes me question, like wake up now. Like I'd be like, just wake up. Can I just wake up from this? Is this a dream? Yeah. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, before I would have thought that was crazy, but given some of my experiences with lucid dreams, I think it's possible. I think the reality is nobody really knows for sure. And like to quickly go back to the state check thing, that is one of the fundamental lucid dreaming techniques to become lucid more. If you do these daytime reality checks, as they call it, that's one of the fundamentals. And just to kind of share my go-to is I'll look at some text and then I'll look away. Then I'll look back at the text again and confirm that it's stable, because in dreams, text often gets kind of jumbled up, you know? So if you're able to kind of get in that habit of checking text and then acknowledging like, okay, it's stable, I must not be dreaming, you'll more likely question it or recognize when the text is jumbled during the lucid dream. At least that one works pretty well for me. And at the end of that reality check, I'll try to levitate. Like right now, I'm trying to levitate. I'm thinking like, okay, I can't levitate, so this must not be a dream. And then it also doubles over as confirmation in the dream. When I think I'm lucid, I suspect that I'm lucid or that I'm having a dream. I'll levitate, and then it's like, okay, now I'm 100% sure that I'm in a dream, and now I can go about whatever kind of mission I've set forth or any kind of exploration I want to do, or just kind of go with the flow, depending on like where my awareness is kind of drawn in that particular lucid dream. So anyways, just wanted to, kind of mention that reality check as a fundamental, way.
And then the intention there is that in the dream, then you realize that it's different than the waking state. So this must be a dream, and then you become lucid. That's all right. Yeah.
And there's a bunch of different techniques, and I think certain techniques work better for various people. There's one where you plug your nose and you try to breathe through your nose, and in this waking life, you cannot breathe through your nose, but in a dream state you actually can. There's another one with light switches, testing the functionality of light switches. There's a whole bunch of different reality check varieties that one could do.
And you mentioned before, like 10 years, receiving information that you hadn't been aware of before, and whether it's suppressed in the unconscious and it's just coming out or not, it's still like can you use it like lucid dreaming for problem solving? Like what other practical applications are there for lucid dreaming in your experience?
Yeah, I think problem solving is a pretty legitimate one. I can give an example of that. Or I could probably give a few examples of that. People have studied it for sports. People can practice different actions, in a lucid dream. There's some evidence that it's actually activating the same parts of the brain when they're actually practicing in this waking reality. There's different benefits around nightmare, like coping with nightmares. That might be one of the most practical kind of applications early on for lucid dreaming. And one of my favorite aspects is exploring the nature of reality and talking to these dream figures, and yeah, just to make sure we don't lose track of the previous point too, of like this reality right now that we're in, is this a dream? Is there another level beyond that? I think one thing that makes me question that is I've had these lucid dreams where I go deep, or I go in like several layers deep, and sometimes this happens when I meditate in a lucid dream. I kind of break away to a totally different space where I feel like I'm in this kind of void and like dark, blobby, kind of nebulous kind of space. But then when I do that, it's not very uncommon for me to wake up into another dream, and then wake up into another dream, and then wake up into this waking reality. So who's to say that we can't wake up from this waking reality into another space, and maybe we just don't have memory of this reality in that other space, whatever that is. Like maybe our recall of this quote unquote dream is very poor in that other reality. We're just not as connected from this space into that space, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, it does to me. Like exploring the nature of reality is definitely something that I enjoy as well. One of the things that I'd love to get your take on, the fact that in like through evolution, we've evolved in such a way that the brain, we've had to it had to develop muscle atonia to be able to suppress the body in the dreaming state. And so why is it like that we've evolved? Like nothing in through evolution is happens by chance, like evolved with the nuance that the brain can't tell the difference between like a virtual world or the dream world and the and the waking state in this reality. And so, like, why is that? Like, it's like it's intended for us to exist in worlds within worlds within worlds. Because do you know what I'm trying to say? Sorry. But because the brain can't tell the difference between the virtual or the dreamscape, and like with the body, so the body has to, it has to paralyze the body, muscle hernia in the dreamscape. It's like, and then if you have a VR experience, it's hard to tell the difference. You think through evolution, like the brain, it would have made it so that the brain didn't need to do muscle atonia, so that we would just, it knew the difference, but it doesn't. So if this was base reality, you would think that would have been the case, right? We would have evolved that way. But given it's almost like this is like a VR kit, and then this is the haptic suit that enables us to exist in this reality.
Yeah, or maybe we exist in a fundamentally different, kind of state, or from some kind of plane of consciousness that's more pure and fundamental than, this kind of existence right now. And like this is our avatars for this kind of plane of existence, and our like broader consciousness, or whatever you want to call that, is kind of channeling into this, like avatar of bones and flesh here. I've heard one theory about the reason dreams have evolved the way they have evolved are around the ability to rehearse things that are, potentially going to happen in the future. So I could see that being a justification for it feeling real. If you really want to get a pure rehearsal of things that might happen, or kind of test out things you're afraid of, or try things kind of in a safe environment in the dreamscape, it probably pays to like have yourself actually buy into that being real. If like part of that is kind of rewiring your circuits, or like activating the same parts of your brain as if they were to happen, here in this reality.
Yeah, I appreciate that. If what you were saying before though about existing in another plane of consciousness, I don't know, for whatever reason, that feels more true to me than, like we're more than just this human existence. Looping back, so what you're doing with Tech for Dreaming, and bringing technology into this, like why is that work important now, do you think, leading into the future?
Yeah. So I think lucid dreaming is unique because there's kind of a finite number of portals or channels to connect with this kind of greater consciousness, or to kind of probe at the nature of reality. I think it's things like lucid dreaming. I think meditation. I would put breath work in that category. I'd put psychedelics in that category. There's kind of like a handful of different kind of methods or portals, if you will, to be able to kind of explore the nature of reality. And I think lucid dreaming is one of the most promising ones, or, they don't have to be on different footing, but it's definitely one of those channels. And I feel like it's too important to have it not be accessible to people that want to experience it. And right now it's just very difficult for people to have lucid dreams, or there's, varying degrees of abilities out there of more of like kind of the innate talent for lucid dreaming. But I do think there's also kind of a skill component where I think anybody can learn to lucid dream. They might not be as frequent of a lucid dreamer as the more kind of innate talented lucid dreamer. But I think technology can help kind of fill that gap where, even if somebody is not trained in these kind of mental techniques, maybe they're not keeping a dream journal every night. I do think there is a space for technology to make it more accessible, at least to get a taste of that. Like even just like, I would draw the analogy to like using a heavy dose of psychedelics to get a glimpse into this other space that you can, maybe you can get there with a few decades of meditation practice. But if you do a heavy dose of psychedelics, you might kind of do a quick shortcut to that space, get a taste of it, and then get only more motivated to meditate and get into a real meditation practice to make that more of your default state versus, a one-time trip. But yeah, I think lucid dreaming is one of those kind of handful of portals, and just I think it'd be amiss to not have more people, to be able to experience that. And I think it's something that, doesn't really have a lot of negative downsides. You want to be careful about not disrupting your sleep, obviously, because sleep is fundamental to health. But once in a while, I think it would be, such a good upgrade for people to be able to lucid dream when they want to.
Yeah, as a tool to explore consciousness, explore themselves, explore what else is possible. So lucid dreaming on demand, I know, is one of the things that you've talked about in terms of one of the missions of or visions of Tech for Dreaming. Just dropping back into like what are the more organic tools that we can use today? Like what's best practice? Like, can you just give us the quick checklist of like what do we use today, and then maybe look at, well, where's the technology at, and like what are you seeing that's most likely to win moving forward?
Yeah, and I think before anybody uses technology for lucid dreaming, I think it's a good idea to build the foundation with more of the fundamental techniques, like more of these kind of mental techniques, and that includes daytime reality checks, like we were talking about earlier. It includes keeping a dream journal to help with dream recall and remembering your dreams. There's a certain other techniques too, as far as like waking up in the middle of the night and then falling back asleep with a strong intention to realize you're dreaming when you're dreaming next. So there's like a handful of these foundational techniques that I think set the right foundation before you start to layer on, these kind of technology elements, or I feel like they're better together at least. And I would classify the technology as being in a couple different categories, where there's the more of like the substances or supplements, and then there's more of the devices in another category. I would put those kind of two side by side. Right now in the more of the supplement category, there's a supplement called galantamine, which has the most evidence so far at both a 4 milligram dose and an 8 milligram dose. There's a study with people that were at a lucid dreaming retreat in Hawaii, one of those Stephen LaBerge retreats, and they were showing actually pretty good effects of this galantamine and taking that during the middle of the night. There's a wide variety of other kind of devices that are kind of, I would say, earlier stage in development, or less proven at this point. But I could also talk about some of those if that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I think so. Like, so state checks throughout the day is one thing. Having a dream journal is another thing. Taking galantamine throughout the night. So that's best taken, like, you wake up about 2 a.m. just before you go into your REM sleep, from what I understand. And we tend to get a REM mostly it gets more proficient in REM as we get closer to our waking state.
Yeah, that's right. Like, people will get they'll get longer and longer REM periods as the night goes on. So it makes sense to get your deep sleep in the first half of the night, because that's when you get your longer deep sleep periods, on average. So in that study, they waited about 4 or 5 hours after the person fell asleep, and they had them wake up, do a mindfulness practice, and then they took a dose of galantamine. There's a couple different arms of the study, or a couple different dosages that they tested. Again, the 4 milligram and 8 milligram dose. And then they would have the person fall back asleep again after doing that. Because then the idea is, okay, you've taken this. It takes about an hour to reach the peak concentration within the person. So then you're really targeting that effect to coincide with when the person has these longer REM periods, and when the more kind of vivid dreams that are more, kind of fertile grounds for lucid dreaming take place. So you're kind of like timing the release kinetics of the galantamine to overlap with when these longer REM periods are later in the night.
Yeah, cool. And so is there anything else, like, so state checks, dream journal, checking in, like setting the intention before you go to sleep, having the galantamine in the middle of the night, any other things that anyone that's wanting to get more to try this should consider? Then we can look at the tech.
Yeah, there's one technique I've been meaning to try more often. This sense-initiated lucid dreaming, where you cycle through these mindfulness techniques in bed of being aware of your kind of visual senses, with your eyes closed, observing with the kind of the back of your eyelids, like the dark blobs, like kind of engage your visual senses and then engage in your auditory senses. So just like listen for any kind of sounds, whether they're happening outside, for instance, a neighbor vacuuming the floor above, or, hearing your own heartbeat, whatever it is, and then cycle then to more of the tactile feel. So feel the pressure points of your body contacting the mattress, and then cycle back to visual, and just like go through that, like visual to auditory to tactile, back to visual, auditory, tactile, and just kind of cycle through that as you're falling back asleep. And one reason I mentioned that is there's an exciting new lucid dreaming induction study that's being planned at a few different centers, probably starting later this year, where they're gonna combine that sense initiated lucid dreaming technique with what they call targeted lucidity reactivation, or TLR for short, which means they associate some kind of external cue, with some kind of action, or that in this case they're associating light and sound and vibrational haptic feedback with they'll actually have the person in REM sleep, or they'll detect the person in REM sleep in the sleep lab, and then they'll actually deliver these kind of lights and sounds and vibrations to the person, but ahead of time they'll train them to associate those cues with this kind of mindfulness technique of doing that sense initiated lucid dreaming technique. But the thing is, they'll actually send those cues while the person is in a dream, or when they're in REM sleep, with the intention of inducing a lucid dream by building these associations between these external cues and this technique. So I'm very curious how we can kind of like bridge the gap between some of these more mental techniques and the technology, and I think that study would be a good way to better understand the potential around that.
Yeah, that's cool. So you'd be in a dream, and then all of a sudden you see these lights start flashing in, and then that's the cue to go,
Yeah.
hey, I'm loose, and then you wake up.
Right.
So
And there's like a bit of personalization to that too. They'll want to calibrate it so it's like you're not flashing lights too bright that it's going to wake the person up, or playing the sound too loud that it's going to wake the person up. But also it's got to be, loud enough for them to incorporate that into the dream to then recognize it. So yeah, I think personalization is kind of key for some of this stuff too, where we can't have one size fits all solutions for broad populations that, probably not going to work in this kind of domain.
Yeah, awesome. You and I did an interview with Robert Wagner a little while ago, so I'll link that in the notes for this, the show notes. And we went more into the depth of things that you can do in lucid dreaming and why you would do lucid dreaming, and so we won't spend too much time laboring on that here. But it's such an exciting space. It really is, just to add a whole other dimension to your being, and how we show up and what's possible. So the technology, like what's exciting there? What are you seeing? I know it's still early, but I know there are some people that are actively innovating in this space. Like what are you seeing?
Yeah, and quick plug for Robert Wagner. He's one of the I think both nicest people and most like knowledgeable people in the space. And that was the first lucid dreaming book I ever read, was Gateway to the Inner Self. So he does a great job outlining like, okay, if you become techniques to become lucid, but then also things you could do when you're in a lucid dream. He's got a lot of good tips around how to engage with dream figures, or how to engage directly with the dream itself, even beyond the kind of characters in the dream. So want to at least give him a plug and recommend that people read his book, Gateway to the Inner Self. That was what kind of got me started down the path.
Awesome.
But yeah, as far as the various technologies I find exciting, I think, there's so much left to discover around the brain and neuroscience right now. Even if you talk to researchers in the space, I think a lot of them would admit it's kind of a crapshoot as far as like, we don't know exactly why certain things work, as far as things like transcranial direct current stimulation or magnetic stimulation and effects on the brain. Like even now, the cause and effect are still like a little bit spotty or not as understood as, what people might think. So that creates a challenge of how do you be targeted and precise on the dosage of stimulation and where you target it, how you target it. So I feel like there's a lot of room left to discover on the kind of parameter space, if you will, as far as like understanding what parts of the brain are actually involved in lucid dreaming. How do you modulate them in a way that makes the brain more susceptible to go into a lucid dream? It's like there's just a lot of kind of uncharted territory in neuroscience that would be helpful to understand before figuring out how to implement a technology to induce lucid dreaming. But it's not going to stop people from experimenting. And there's been several experiments with direct current stimulation. That one didn't really pan out. Maybe a future one will. Alternating current. That one was with alternating current stimulation. I was thinking of the Voss. There's a Voss study from 2014. I think to kind of tie it up here, I think some of the most promising technology might come from not necessarily brain stimulation in the near term, but more of this kind of lights and sounds and auditory cues. It's more accessible from the consumer standpoint, or it's I think there'd be more people willing to use a device that uses more of like audio cues or light cues relative to having their brain stimulated with electricity. Even if it's quote unquote non-invasive. I think you would get more people trying it if we can actually get the lights and sounds and more of the haptic vibrational feedback to be able to be incorporated into the dream. So if you were to ask me that question of what technology is the most promising, if you were to ask me that a year or two ago, I would probably say electrical stimulation and magnetic stimulation. Now I would probably say more like light and sound and vibrational stimulation, but then coupling that with the right kind of mindset training or priming the mind to incorporate those kind of external cues, into the dream to induce lucidity. But yeah, it's still early. People are trying out all different types of techniques, and that is a big part of the fun in the Tech for Dreaming community. Is we got like quite a few tinkerers and people creating projects and just trying stuff out on their own and seeing what works, what doesn't work, and there's definitely a willing community to experiment together with them there at Tech for Dreaming.
Yeah, awesome. So, I just like technology, and then I also consider like meditation, and just where technology is taking us into the next 20 years. We're heading into these into a metaverse realm, a world within worlds, and I look at this current waking reality, and then you've got like another reality which is there to explore, which is our dreamscape, which is seemingly one or two. And then, you mentioned psychedelics before. That sort of helps us to, again, strip away the veil that this waking reality puts, or the mind puts, and then exploring there. I just wonder, with the potential paths moving forward, what's your take on, as we move into these digital realms, into the metaverse, into worlds within worlds, and potentially moving away from our biology, if you would believe some of the speculation around where we're heading, what comes up for you in all that?
Yeah, I tend to be an optimist overall, and I think a lot of problems can be solved by technology. Not all the problems, obviously. You got to have the right kind of institutions and things surrounding it. But I think the way technology is advancing, I think we're going to see more and more abundance distributed. It might not be as evenly distributed as people want, but I think people's basic needs will be met more and more and more as the cost of energy goes down. As the ability to grow food, only becomes easier and easier. I think we're going to be progressing into a world that's more abundant than ever, where I hope jobs will be more of an optional thing for people. And I think that would be positive because it would free up people's minds to think beyond this kind of tunnel vision of I got to work this 9-to-5 job, or I know some people are working 2 to 3 jobs and raising kids, and you can't really think of much beyond that. You're just kind of consumed by all this crap coming at you, and you just react. Yeah. And you can't you don't have the mental space to think about other stuff. So I think we're going to get to this place where we evolve more towards abundance, and that's going to open up people to have more time and space to think about things beyond, like what's right in front of them. And I think naturally people will only think more and more about, the more existential kind of questions about, what is the nature of reality? What happens when I die? Am I more than my physical body or not? I think when people are left to let their minds wander, those are some of the natural questions that will come up for people. I'm sure people will, many people will suppress that because it's uncomfortable to think about death and what happens with, existence after your physical body starts to decay, right? It's not the most comfortable subject to think about. But I think more and more people are going to let their minds kind of go in that domain once we're kind of free to do that. And I think technology will help, give people the abundance to have that be more of an option, right? Happy to talk more about any of that or like more around, how lucid dreaming could fit into that.
Yeah, like I guess the promise for technology is like, and when we talk about consciousness, it used to be for a lot of people in the West, you'd go to do a pilgrimage, you'd go to India, and you'd find your guru, and you'd step out of society, and you'd do the years of practice. And like I'm a long-term meditator, 20 plus years now, and for me, it's been one of the most powerful things that have really helped me to understand who I am and continually ask that question, who am I? Am I that story that I was brought up to believe? Am I the story, and even question, like meditation has really helped provide the foundation to question, like even this reality, because it's like a conditioned experience. And then as you are able to sit more in that stillness outside of the ongoing narrative, then you open to a whole other appreciation for what is possible. And, if you're within the psychedelic realm, having a peak psychedelic experience, that just blows it even further open. And so I guess the opportunity with technology is to really help to accentuate that, to accelerate that, to take what was scarce and make it more abundant, which is like what you're doing with lucid dreaming. I guess the concern, though, is that the people that are wielding these technologies, making sure that they have the welfare of the many in their visions, as opposed to consolidating the power of the few, because there's a lot of dystopian futures, right, that science fiction movie creators and writers portray, and that it's an option. But for me, like I'm very much a utopian kind of person, in that how can we use this technologies to really help us to evolve and become and see and explore like the fabric of consciousness. Like that's what's really exciting for me. And like in that, really like technology as an extension of our existing consciousness. So in what I just, sorry, you go.
And yeah, like an extension beyond our biological sensors too. Like we're pretty much bags of meat and bones with biological sensors. We got eyeballs for vision, we got eardrums to hear, we got nose and tongue and skin, but it's all finite and limited. We've evolved from primates to have these biological sensors, and we only take in a fraction of what reality is with our biological sensors. So I think technology can help us get beyond our basic biology and contact reality in a more authentic, more real way, because we're kind of getting just a filtered version of it. So I think when you think about getting into a lucid dream, it's kind of like the ultimate metaverse experience, right? Where you're not limited by your biological sensors anymore. You're free to experience things. And I think that's part of the reason where, when I mentioned sometimes it feels more real than reality, colors, they seem impossibly vivid. Like the tactile senses are like even more rich, and it's difficult to describe, but it's like you're just not constrained in the same way that you are in this kind of reality. And I would put like you said, a peak psychedelic experience in there. If you want to experience something mind-blowing, try a heavy dose of ayahuasca or 7 grams of dried psilocybin mushrooms. You'll make contact with something you didn't think was possible, because again, you're kind of getting beyond your usual constrained senses that way.
Yeah, I agree. I love the thought of like lucid dreaming already being an extension, like it's already a metaverse, it's already a world within a world.
Like the perfect metaverse.
Yeah. What does a utopian future look like to you, man? Like, what would you consider? How do we use technology to lead us into a future which is more of a utopian reality?
Yeah, assuming we can, I mean, there's a lot of assumptions baked in here, but let's assume we can, get to broad abundance as far as like people don't have to worry about where they get their food. They don't have to worry about, shelter and putting clothes on their back. Like all the basic needs are covered. I would view a utopian future as far as like giving people freedom to explore what is most passionate to them, like serve the purpose they think they're put on this earth to do. Right now, it's a challenge to do that when, again, you're kind of distracted by this other, various BS you got to do in like your day job or whatever it is. So I view this kind of future as like, okay, you get this like time and space to explore what resonates most with you. And I think
Who are you?
themselves forward, when they do that, and hopefully lead from a place of love, not a place from fear, and like build, like push on the things that they're most energized to push, because they're the ones that, if you're energized to push, you're going to do it great. You're going to do a great job. Whatever that thing is that resonates with you, if you're free to pursue that thing.
Yeah, so it's really freeing us up from the toils of the day to day to really start asking the big questions like, who am I? And then exploring that, and then exploring the world that we exist in beyond that. And if technology can help support us to do that, and we're safe, like, then that's an incredible, an incredible vision to explore. Like, there's a lot of work to be done at the moment. Like, our current world is kind of, there's still a lot of mistrust and centralization of power, and so there's work to be done. But I appreciate your view, man. In wrapping up, is there anything else that you want to share? Whether it's around the tech, lucid dreaming space, or just technology in general, things that we should be considering relevant to consciousness and evolution and our becoming, like where you see the next 20 years?
It's exciting. I feel like we're kind of early to the party here, for the kind of thing around, call it transhumanism, call it human self-improvement. I've heard people call it optimalism. It's the idea of like, how do you take a human from a good state to excellent state, and just use technology to just make them better, and the whole world becomes better every time each individual becomes better. So I think, that space is super exciting to me. Like, I'm committed to be in the space for the decades to come here. And I'm just really excited about, the lucid dreaming part of that. At least from my perspective, I'm, blessed to have like some pretty good abilities with lucid dreaming kind of naturally, at least after the sleep apnea got fixed. So I think, there's a lot of exciting things that we can do to make lucid dreaming more accessible to more people. And that's really the goal of Tech for Dreaming. So I would encourage people to, follow Tech for Dreaming on Twitter. We got a Twitter handle. We got a Discord server that, we got some pretty active discussions in there. We try to do events every month or two. So we'll keep those going. We got the next one on October 11th coming up here. And just really excited to see where the space goes. It feels like this heap of dry wood that's just waiting to catch a spark. I think there's like so much untapped potential in it. And from my viewpoint, I think it's inevitable. It's just a matter of when. And I think, that there's a lot of exciting stuff in the future here.
Thanks, brother. I really resonate with what you're saying. I'm as excited to spend the next 20 years exploring the nature of reality and worlds within worlds, within worlds, within worlds, and just all the way to infinity. It's just such an exciting, and I guess we're blessed to be able to have these conversations. Thanks for taking the time to jump on, and look forward to having more conversations with you around this as we journey together in the next 20 years and beyond.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm looking forward to it. And thanks for having me today. Like, really enjoyed the discussion.
Yeah, awesome, brother. All right. Thanks, Jay.
All right.
Two Paths Podcast is a production of I Am Connected, a digital platform dedicated to the evolution of consciousness. Check us out at iamconnected.com.